Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Thursday, June 25th, 2020, 5:30 p.m. Central, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. It's a bit of a special edition since we're doing two movies each day from Ray Harryhausen as part of a DM review series, this one being for 1961's Mysterious Island. Since we're doing two, we're doing one at the usual 9:30 a.m. time, and we're doing another one at 5:30 p.m. We did 20 Million Miles to Earth this morning, and we're doing Mysterious Island tonight. So what do we know about this? Well, we know that this one, unlike some of the other Harryhausen work, is based on a Jules Verne novel published in 1875. Mysterious Island, along with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and a couple of others have been adapted for film and television a number of times over many years, but this one is particularly special because of the stop motion animation, dynamation as they sometimes called it, that was done on this by Ray Harryhausen, special effects genius. Understand that while 20 Million Miles to Earth was the first real big milestone, and it worked on Mighty Joe Young and another short prior to that, but 20 Million Miles to Earth was really a big turning point for him because he did so much work in it. Mysterious Island came 4 years later, 57 to 61, but in between, the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad was produced in 1958, right on the heels of 20 Million Miles to Earth. We'll look at that Saturday morning because we want to do all the sword and sandal movies kind of together. The three Sinbads, Jason and the Argonauts, and then capping it off Monday with Clash of the Titans. So today, 20 Million Miles to Earth, Mysterious Island. Tomorrow, what I like to call the dinosaur movies, 1 million years BC in the Valley of Gwangi, which were 66 and 69. Jason and the Argonauts comes after Mysterious Island in 63. But here we are in 1961, and the challenges for this production were set by the classic science fiction / fantasy author Jules Verne. So, taking a look at some of what we've got, here's the opening title screen. So we're going to move along through the first part of this movie pretty quickly because, I don't know, first 15 minutes, they really set the stage with it, but we don't get a lot of real action in it. So the premise for the movie is that there is a Confederate Civil War POW camp where some Unionist soldiers spot an opportunity to escape using an observation balloon that is being battered about in a courtyard due to a storm. And they do manage to escape along with the Confederate pilot. I believe he's a sergeant. They knock him out, take the balloon. There's 3 Union soldiers and a Union war correspondent is also with them, so there's 5 of them up in the airship. They have a problem with a valve, which is causing them to go down after having been unsuccessful in landing it prior to this. But eventually a tear in the balloon starts bringing them down. Fortunately, they're near a mysterious island where they manage to get to shore. There's the 5 of them. That's the correspondent on the right. 2 of the soldiers, one of them black, and the Confederate balloon pilot. Now, the 4 of them, minus the Union captain, all discover themselves on the shore together after swimming there and don't see the captain. And it's not until a short while later that they spot a signal fire around the other side of a bay. They go there and discover that the captain is washed up on shore over there. They examine the fire. He claims he doesn't know how it got started. He has no matches. He's soaking wet. None of them have any matches. But they put it off as if he swam ashore himself, somehow got a fire started, and then passed out and just doesn't remember. So it's just that easy to allow things to be on the mysterious island. They begin to build a shelter. They realize there's a semi-active volcano in the center of the island. They go off exploring the place. It kind of looks like there's 2 volcanoes, but there's one that's definitely active, and there's other mountainous landscape. On the beach, palm trees. Interior, all sorts of different trees, as we'll see. At one point, they cross a fantastic looking log bridge over a canyon. There's a waterfall in the background. The scenery is fantastic in this for the island. They do a really good job with that, and any number of these locations would be great for an RPG setting. But before too long, one of the young soldiers is clawed by a giant crab. First of the real monsters they see. Now they've gotten giant clams out of the bay, and they realize there are some of these plants are oversized, so there are things here that are also starting to pique their interest, but they explain these things away that they don't know where this island is. They don't know where they are exactly. They're way out of their depth. And so they really don't know what's going on, but they're willing to just shrug and invest themselves in hunting and trying to figure out a way off the island after exploring it. But in the meantime, giant crab comes up out of the sand. It grabs one of the soldiers, the captain there. They've built spears now. They have their shelter back at the beach. But they have to deal with this creature. Soon the others come, and they're all helping out. One of them has a lasso and manages to get it around one of the legs. And they flip it over. Hey, Ink Dweller, thanks for stopping by. Yep, we're doing a couple of shows a day here while we go through this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for leading up to Monday's Harryhausen Day. We're looking at Mysterious Island here. Doing a DM review of it. We're just a ways in. We just got into dealing with the first big monster, the giant crab, which they fought and then flip over into a sort of a hot springs geyser. And of course it's cooked, so now they have food. Good for them, right? So there's bits of it, claws and whatever, and they're eating. Well, they begin to do some celebrating. They're at least happy that their bellies are full. They're doing flips, playing the harmonica, they're clapping, they're dancing around. When they actually spot another shipwreck. This time, 2 women are washed ashore, and another fellow who is pronounced DOA. But now they have a couple more mouths to feed, and they do know that they are still lost. They get no good information about where they might be from these 2 survivors from the other ship. However, of course, this introduced a love interest. Well done, Jules Verne. Perhaps a couple of them. They do some more exploring and discover some caves high up in a cliff with rope vines hanging down from it. They decide that the location is probably more defensible against creatures like the giant crab and whatever else might be out there. They also had discovered some goats during their climbing, so they have another source of meat and pelts. And they decide they're going to explore this beautiful setting here. And again, another lifted right out of the book, Jules Verne setting created, which just beautiful for filming. They climb up. Well, the captain climbs up first, and he goes to look around inside and discovers there are some constructed materials within. He finds an old chain, he finds an old chest, a saber. He discovers a journal, and also discovers a hanged man. Well, the journal states that this is a fellow who had fallen in with some pirates, and then his ship got destroyed. There's a mention of Captain Nemo within the journal, which lets us know that Captain Nemo, who is renowned, according to these individuals, for having created a ship called the Nautilus, which could navigate underwater, a submarine, and was destroying ships on both sides of every war, putting himself out there as a man of peace and thinking that he could end all wars by controlling the seas. He would just take it upon himself to destroy any warship he would come across, and pirate ships. And that is how this poor individual wound up stranded on the island, fending for himself, before he eventually succumbed to despair and depression, with no hope of being rescued, and killed himself. Now, this guy, there for years and years and years, and yet when our weather balloon, or our observation balloon band of 5 come crashing in, within days another ship is destroyed off the coast, and 2 more survivors are there. Well, they take over the place, the caves, read the journal, get more information about Nemo, about what might be out there, and especially pirates. They build themselves a nice little elevator, pretty neat little bit of construction and something that player characters might do in an RPG, that you certainly encourage this sort of ingenuity. Suddenly, a large crate is discovered by one of the soldiers out in the bay below the cave mouth. Now, they've explored this island. It's pretty big. They've been down to several beaches when they find this cliff cave complex that they decide to then move to from their original shelters that they built. Just a rather weird coincidence that here's this watertight crate that the two women survivor from the other shipwreck claim they're sure did not come from their ship. So essentially, some other ship has been in the area. Well, they make themselves a home anyway. What else can they do? They start making plans. They have, from the watertight crate, all sorts of supplies. There are flintlock rifles. There are navigation equipment, charts and maps so they can figure out exactly where they are. There's a straight razor, a mirror. There's sewing supplies. There are cooking supplies. Everything they could possibly need to survive while they figure out a way to build a boat and get off the island. Crazy. But it was all in there. Yet somehow not completely suspicious. Candles. Well, they built a pen for the goats and whatnot, and apparently it's attracted a giant flightless bird. We like to call these sort of things an axe beak, don't we? And they try to run away and whatnot, but women unfortunately get cornered, and the correspondent tries to protect them. Eventually, the younger soldier hops up off the fence onto its back and starts to ride it, stab it with his knife, and eventually it goes down. Later they'll discover that there was a bullet shot through its brain, and of course the young soldier isn't surprised that his knife didn't take it down. He's pretty sure that it went down easier than it should have. Still another suspicious thing happening here, but it is the mysterious island, so of course mysterious things are going to happen. Well, out exploring, the youngest soldier and the young ingenue from the second shipwreck, or the follow-up shipwreck after the balloon wreck, discover another cave where there's a giant honeycomb. They had tasted some honey that was dripping down outside the cave, so they climbed up to investigate, and gosh, if there's honey, let's just get some. Can't be any bees, right? Well, that's not true, of course. There's a giant bee, and it's huge. And so they climb up into one of the combs and keep it away with a stick, but it, in fact, seals them in by building the exterior, building up the exterior of that facet of the honeycomb to enclose them in, trapped within. Meanwhile, over on the other, from the other caves, they spot another boat. That's right, a third incident of people being near the mysterious island that no one's ever heard of and no one knows where it is. And this time, pirate ship. Yo ho ho. Well, what are they going to do? They scramble, they camouflage the boat, as one does, got back up into the cave, the defensible position, but some of the pirates come ashore and discover where they are, There is some gunfire. A couple of pirates are killed. Sadly for them, one of the pirates escapes in the longboat. When dinghy heads back out and forms the rest of the pirates. And meanwhile, somehow they've broken out by creating fire. I'm not quite sure how they had the material to do it, but they melt the backside of the honeycomb, climb out of it, and what should they discover but a cavern where there is a unusual looking watercraft, which they don't put two and two together right away as the Nautilus, even though it clearly is advanced watercraft, such as one would guess might be a submarine. So what do we have here? We've got all these elements. We've got these large creatures, the crab, the axebeak, the bees, all these things to fight. Of course, they have regular-sized goats, herd goats on the island, so there's every indication that somebody's been here. And because of the signal fire created from the captain and the mysterious chest that washed ashore with absolutely every supply they could need that they didn't already have, it's just kind of amazing that they haven't figured out until now that somebody's watching over them. Somebody who also has a lavish organ within his submarine. Beautiful setting here. Of course, we can see all the pipes and everything, but so we know this is a working mechanical vessel, and yet somehow all bedecked in this sort of lavish style with candelabras and an organ and beautiful finished table with a glass bowl upon it and curtains hanging. Really quite stunning. Meanwhile, now the pirates have started firing on the caves, and they've got the range, so they're actually hitting the cliffside, and it looks like they will probably pound it into dust. But suddenly, the ship begins to sink. The pirates drowned. Once again, a lucky break for our stranded survivors and explorers. They don't quite know what to think of it at this point, when out of the water comes Nemo himself, as they will discover, wearing his giant shell breathing apparatus that he's invented, his weighted shoes so he can walk on the bottom of the water. He explains that he set a charge, blew a hole in the boat, and destroyed it. So, DMing point. You don't really want to have this many Deus Ex Machina moments where you are saving the bacon of your adventurers. Obviously, the conceits of an 1875 science fiction / fantasy novel, where the reveal over the course of the novel is that Captain Nemo is here. We've had all the signs. We pretty much flat out told them through the journal that they discover. They're obviously getting help from everywhere, while being able to do very little themselves, with having not come here with any supplies, being stranded here. So, works great for his story. Don't want to do a whole lot of that. in an RPG, or you're just stringing your players along, helping them out at every turn whenever they have a difficult situation. Nevertheless, what we're definitely getting out of this film that we can transfer to RPGs are the creatures, are the locations, and all of that. So, characters, not so much. Maybe you get an NPC like a Nemo, but you don't use them to protect the players all the time, I don't think. The player characters. Well, he invites them back. He tells them his story. He teaches them how to breathe underwater with more. For some reason, he's created multiple underwater breathing apparatus, even though Nemo is there alone. He also created this fantastical electric underwater gun, which shoots a beam of electricity. He teaches them how to use that. They've decided, after he shows them around to a sunken city, that the volcano, just a matter of time before it erupts again and destroys everything on the island, like it must have done centuries before to this ancient city out in the Pacific somewhere, which I think they discovered was 1,170 miles east of New Zealand, according to the maps and charts and their sextant and their ability to figure it out after they got that chest. So, this architecture, I don't know. Are we intimating? They don't actually say it in the movie. We're not even sure if they say it in the book. But are they intimating that what we have here is the lost city of Atlantis, destroyed at one time by the volcanic activity on the island? And if that were the case, how far offshore is this? Well, it's walking distance. Was there a second island? Was there an extension of that original island? Why did this sink and not the other? A lot of questions. But there it is, and it looks pretty cool. So it's a neat idea for a location. Well, now, things are heating up, so to speak, as the activity of the volcano increases. And Nemo says, he'd been there a long time, but it's been increasing and increasing, and it's his prediction that it's going to happen soon. So they got to figure a way to get off the island. Well, they do. They figure out a way to take their old balloon, and they're going to shove it into the hold of this old ship. Now remember, I don't think I mentioned this, did I? Nemo has already said that the stresses that the Nautilus has had over the years have made it not seaworthy anymore. If it gets taken out to sea, it will spring a leak, quit working, whatever. It's a good shelter in that cavern, but it isn't going to get anybody off the island. So what they've decided is they're going to take the old balloon and use it as a sort of bladder within the hold of the sunken pirate ship. And be careful not to show us any bodies. I think the only body we actually see of someone who's died is the third person that washed up on shore with the two women from the shipwreck. And you know what? The pirates were jumping ship and going into the water and were told that they had drowned. So apparently the Civil War soldiers can swim to shore, and the two women from the shipwreck can get to shore. But none of these pirates who were aboard this ship have any ability to swim to shore, even though at least a few of them had just taken a boat there themselves. Anyway, underwater breathing apparatus, we're going to go explore the ship. We're going to check it out. We're going to figure out how to patch it up underwater. Then we're going to raise it by inflating a re-patched balloon within its hull. And once we get the ship to the surface, we'll be able to use it to sail away. Good plan. Sadly, there's a giant octopus that grabs one of them. The octopus, using a shell, a nautilus shell. Well, there you go. So now they have to fight this thing underwater. Of course, they use the electric gun that was introduced earlier to zap it. It sprays ink and it takes off and it leaves them alone, so they manage to survive. Nemo realizes from his closed circuit camera set, which he can view all sorts of things around the island, and keep an eye on everything. See these little wheels here? You just spin those and it turns the cameras apparently. And the volcanic activity is stepping up. Well, sadly, that means that now that they've got the ship up, even though they're waiting for Nemo, he's probably not going to make it out. In fact, he gets trapped by a girder in the ship, and they can't wait any longer, and the island's being destroyed before their very eyes, so they have to sail away and just take the legacy of Nemo back to civilization and try to do better and not wage war and all of that muckety-muck. So, great setting, lots of great locations in this, right? The caves, the underground cavern, the beehives, the various base camps that they create. There's plenty of action. The crab, the axe beak, the giant bees, all monsters to fight. Pirates, got to consider them an encounter. So we've got all of those that we can throw at people. There are some wayward NPCs that get added to the original band of adventurers. And of course, Nemo himself. A great resource for these particular characters, and the only reason they were able to get off the island eventually before it gets destroyed. What a horrible adventure that would be to run. To have them come to shore and have no supplies and have no Nemo to help them get off before you destroy your own setting with the volcano. I wouldn't advise you do that to them, right? Anywho, a lot of fun. It's an intriguing movie, certainly based off a Jules Verne novel. It's got some interesting points to it, and the novel itself, I know I read it years and years ago, but I can barely remember what I read. Still, I know I enjoyed it. I know there's a lot of good descriptive passages in there. If you want to ever create your own setting for an island adventure, picking up that novel for inspiration would be a great idea. Watching this movie would be a lot of fun as well. I think that's about all there is to say for this one. So I think what we'll do is we'll just double check what's coming up. Of course, Monday, Harryhausen Day, the 29th, all day long. Today we did our DM reviews for 20 Million Miles to Earth and Mysterious Island. Tomorrow we do the dinosaur movies. 9:30 a.m., 1 million years BC, the Valley of Gwangi at 5:30 p.m. Those are the Friday Central Time. Saturday, we'll be looking at Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. As we said, that was an earlier movie from 1958, 1 year after 20 Million Miles to Earth and a few years before Mysterious Island. Right after Mysterious Island in 1963, we get Jason and the Argonauts. It's source material, obviously Greek myth, but it's definitely on par with the Sinbad movies. Lots of creatures in these. Those will be a lot of fun. The dinosaurs from tomorrow's definitely a lot of fun to watch and see how they move and see how they're fought and all of that. So that'll be fun too. Sunday, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which comes in at 73 after the two dinosaur movies, which are 66 and 69. And then Sinbad of the Eye of the Tiger, 77, 4 years after Golden Voyage. So these cap off the Sinbad movies, or sword and sandal movies, so to speak. But they don't quite, because we have one more Greek mythology movie with great monsters, Clash of the Titans, story of Perseus, of course, defeating the Kraken and the Medusa, and finding the Pegasus, and saving the daughter of another king, of course, all of that fun stuff. That'll be on Monday. I want to thank you for popping into the channel and checking us out. Be sure to speak up in the stream when you're here. That gets you in on the weekly giveaway. Thank you, Ink Dweller, in particular. Good stuff. Always a good time. See you tomorrow for sure. If you're catching up with this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We thank you very much for that. Maybe leave a comment. We're always happy to get some feedback. And we will see you tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for 1 million years BC. Take care.